This is the Latvian Football Podcast.
That everybody on the pitch, outside the pitch, fight for this game.
Teeny bit. He has found Fuskins. It's an excellent goal. Arcalians. The shot driven in. And Shabala makes it three. Shabala was able to make sure. Well done, all Latvian side.
Neither heading to the group stages.
Pulls it back and there's the finish. And Riga lead.
In this episode, we introduce the podcast and talk a little bit about ourselves, as well as about why you should care and follow Latvian football. My name is Dimitris, and I'm one of the hosts of the podcast. And joining me is Eriks.
Hello, everyone. Hello, listeners. My name is Eriks. I'm the second host of the podcast.
Yeah, we're very excited to bring this to you and share our passion for this wonderful sport and the wonderful country of ours. But maybe a little bit about ourselves first, who we are, and then we talk about the podcast and the format and why you should care about it. So I have no particular relationship to football directly. I will admit right out the gates, I never played football on any kind of team level. I do love the game. I love watching it. I took a pause at one point in my life for a few years. Then I came back to it, and I came back to it immediately following Latvian football. So my journey is a little bit different in a sense that when I was younger, I followed the big teams and I enjoyed that kind of football fanship. And it was really not obvious to me why someone would want to watch smaller teams from their same city. I did used to go to games, and there was some relationship, mainly on the family side, with one of the clubs that I genuinely don't remember the name of anymore. Probably doesn't exist. Stadium certainly is not there. I drove past the place a few years ago. But coming back home after many years of living and working and studying abroad and just rediscovering all things Latvian really for myself and family. And eventually it came the turn of football, and well, I step by step really got into it, and I couldn't be happier. Following local teams, watching local players, I love it. It's fantastic. But we do have something of a more expert on the show in the persona of Eric, who actually does play football, but he'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, so a bit of a different story for me. I have been playing football since I was, I think, 7 years old. Fell in love with the game just from an early age. Started playing it at first in my local town, Maarup, and then joined the other teams, bigger teams, more serious teams. Just played all through my teen years, but never really made it or tried to go the professional route. Just played for fun. I have played in the second highest league, third highest league where I'm playing at right now. But just always been in love with football. So, of course, naturally followed Latvian football a bit as well. But quite similarly to Dimitri's, at first I was never really into Latvian football, mostly followed globally the big leagues, big teams. But a few years ago, just suddenly realized that, there's actually something interesting going on in Latvia. I see a lot of new teams developing. There was a bit of a darker period in Latvian football, and then I think we sort of got out of it. And saw a lot of also my players my age that I've played with or against also making it onto the big scene in Latvia, and just thought it would be interesting to start following the Latvian league more. And so I started and never looked back since. Always trying to go to as many games as I can, watch the games, and not only watching but also really I really do have an interest in the whole sort of internal kitchen and how the things are going. Always on Twitter, trying to find out the most recent news about teams, players, etc. So yeah, that's my experience with football and Latvian football specifically.
Yeah, we don't really know one another super well. So I've never asked you this, but what position do you play?
I'm a central defender. Also played wing back and a bit of CDM as well, but mostly central defense, center back.
Yeah, in fact, the only reason we're recording this is we're brought together by the love for the game, really.
Yep,
So
exactly that.
there's that too. Latvian football brings people together and makes podcast happen. But that's really why we want to share this with you. We are starting this podcast really with the explicit goal to help people who do not speak Latvian to get a bit of a glimpse, a little bit of a window into what's going on. We are not experts. I mean, Eric is certainly more of an expert than I am, but this isn't like a pundit room as such. We're two guys who enjoy the game, who follow the news and the developments in Latvian, and then we're gonna chat about them, and hopefully that will bring English-speaking listeners a little bit closer to what we find super interesting and enjoying, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think as the league is growing and developing, a lot of interest from abroad is coming in for Virsliga, and yeah, I mean, even on Twitter, I've seen not Latvian-speaking people sort of writing up players. For example, Krollis, who just moved to Serie A. So yeah, there's definitely some attraction, and I think it's gonna grow in future. So yeah, just wanted to tell more about the beautiful game right here in Latvia to the English-speaking or just non-Latvian speaking audience.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do have to speak English, but if you're listening to this, I mean, that's sort of a prerequisite. So
True.
why should people care about Latvian football?
Well, as I've just mentioned, the league is quite I wouldn't say rapidly, but increasingly developing from year to year. It's also a relatively new league because although it dates back to like 1920s, yeah, the current format has been going since 2010s, and yeah, it's just a very interesting league. What can I say? It's the teams are all mostly pretty new. The players are mostly quite young and very promising. So that's one of the first factors. I think that's beautiful about our league.
Yeah, there's lots of young players. In fact, the Latvian football league, which is called Virsliga, which literally translates to like high league or senior league, is the youngest professional football league in Europe, with an average age of 22.8 years as of last season. Now, that those youngsters are not evenly distributed, of course, so we have some very young teams, such as FK Meta, Supernova Salaspils, or the newly promoted FK Jelgava, and some more experienced teams like both Rigas, FC Riga, and RFS, Liepāja as well. But you do get to see lots of local youngsters. There is a rule in the league that you need to have 3 local players on the pitch at any given point, and it's exciting to see.
I should also mention the 3 Latvian players on the pitch is also quite a new rule. I think it was only put in place like 3 years ago. I think until then the quota was 5 Latvians on the pitch, I believe. So yeah, that of course also increases the competition among the players and the level of football that is played.
Yeah, but even with that, the proportion of foreigners to local players is only 33%. So it's not too much, it's not too little. So it's a very good balance where you can get insight into the local talent and into what football actually is like in this land, with people who play here, what are the philosophies and approaches, and still get foreign quality and different styles.
Yeah, and I think we should also mention when speaking about young teams, the one you didn't mention, Valmiera FC, who are the current champions of Virsliga. I believe they were also either the youngest or the second youngest champions in Europe, Europe's highest leagues. So that's definitely also an achievement and just shows exactly the level of the quality that the young players have here in Latvia in this league.
Yeah, absolutely, and they made some young signings again in the run-up to the 2023 season. So it's very exciting. They also sold a whole bunch of players, having gotten the championship last year. You mentioned Raimond Scrollis, who now plays in Italian Serie A for Spezia. A few people went to the Polish Premier League. Who else did they? I feel like I'm missing someone.
Yeah, I think most of them did go to Polish, either first or second league. But yeah, they've also kept a lot of them. They're still playing. The goalkeeper went to Riga FC, so there's also a lot of competition amongst Virsliga teams of players. And yeah, because the Latvians are very sort of in demand, especially for the bigger teams who have more foreign players. So it's also a very interesting aspect.
Maybe we should say a few words about the structure of the league. So we have 10 teams competing over 36 rounds. There's a national cup as well, which we will be discussing. First place, so the champions, they go on to play Champions League qualifiers. Second and third places go for Conference League qualifiers. Cup winners also go to Conference League qualifiers. And if one of the top three teams also wins the cup, then the fourth place gets that Conference League qualifier privilege. There is a diversity in coaches and styles. Obviously, this varies year on year. Last year, there was a bit of a celebrity joining the league, not for too long. Thorsten Fink, the German coach, spent a few months in Latvia, generally impressed with the league, very unimpressed with the weather in the stadiums. He went on to, I think, Saudi Arabia or somewhere to that part of the world where it's nice and warm. But it's been we have Latvian coaches. The Valmiera team is coached by a Latvian former player. Same with the RFS. Riga is now coached by this highly charismatic Croatian coach, Tomislav Stipic. Liepa has a Georgian.
A Georgian who is a bit of a legend in Latvian football, we should say. He's been in Latvia for multiple years now. Quite a
Tamas
character.
Pertia.
So definitely want to follow as well.
Yeah, I feel like Tamas Pertia lived in Latvia longer than I have, which is not true, but he's something of a fixture.
Well, probably he maybe has, to be fair.
I'm not that young, but thank you. But younger than him, so maybe you're right. Anyway, enough about Pertin. He's a bit of a controversial figure in my book, but still, that maybe that's something that's interesting to watch him for.
Yeah, I would quickly say, well, because he is a controversial character, that's what makes him interesting, and hence the whole league interesting.
Yeah, certainly. Who would you compare him to, maybe? Of world-known coaches. He's very.
Is he comparable? That's a question.
He's very outspoken and very very, let's say, self-confident in his ways and approaches.
I think.
Wouldn't say that he's a special one.
Yeah, but something between Klopp and Mourinho, maybe. Klopp in recent years has also liked to sort of go at journalists and etc. And Pertti also.
He knows what he wants, and he's not necessarily always happy when the world disagrees with him or the facts on the ground disagree with him.
Yes.
He used to coach Valmiera.
He's also coached Liepaja before he was reassigned as he is coaching now. quite a character, and I think the fact that we've spent so much talking about him just shows that there's something about him, and he does know how to get the attention. Yeah.
Is he your favorite coach in the Virsliga?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I would say not, but from the controversial side, yes.
Who would you say? Who would you follow in this upcoming season, coach-wise?
Well, I think it's definitely very interesting what Tomislav Stipic is going to do with Riga FC after he's quite a successful season at Auda last year. Also, I've seen that he's a very interesting character and loves to also speak his mind. And the second, I think it's very important to follow your discounts to see how he's going to try and defend the championship title. And I'm also quite excited about Jelgava and their coach, Ervin Spakons. He's also quite an interesting character, and it will be interesting to see how he does with players that he's been coaching since they were, I think, 13. So they sort of grew up together along the years.
But also talk about a controversial figure in.
True.
We'll not go into that here, but yeah, I'll have to agree with Stipic. I really like the guy. He's highly charismatic. He seems very smart, very likable, very intelligent. He learned football under Carlo Ancelotti at one point.
Yeah, when he was in Bayern, I believe.
Yeah, and just what he did with newly promoted Auda last year, which is a team went from the first league and won the cup and is going to play in Europe this year. That's just stunning.
Yeah, exactly. Newly promoted team playing in Europe very next season. That's not sure if that's ever even happened in Latvian football.
No, but that's what makes it interesting. There you go. It's young and dynamic, and
another point.
Yeah,
exactly.
Never know what's going to happen.
So the next point probably would be the fact that the previous champions, not last year but the year before, FK RFS, managed to get to Conference League group stages, which is they're the first team to get to Conference League group stages from Latvia, although FK Ventspils, which is a fortunate team that does not exist anymore,
sort of exists.
Yeah, they sort of exist. Like they're sort of
they're coming up.
Branding, sort of.
They're coming up. They it was a financial issue, not a sporting issue.
Yeah.
3 years ago, right?
Yeah, we should say that.
Yeah,
so they started from the bottom and then managed to. Now they're gonna play in the first league. But yeah, a team that did manage to play in the Europa League group stages. I think it was in 2009, which was the first such occasion for Latvian football. But then we were sort of dry for many years. Almost never got close. Only in, I think, 2019, Riga FC was, I believe just one goal away from making it into the Europa League. But yeah, RFS managed to get in the Conference League last year. And as they managed to do that, it also sort of brings the price for Virsliga up a bit, I believe.
Yeah, this might be a name that our listeners may be familiar with. RFS, in the same group with Fiorentina, Turkish Başakşehir, and Scottish Hearts. Games with Hearts were very hearty. It was very nice and kind. Lots of Scottish fans came to Riga. Following this development on Twitter, it was very clear that they were very happy with their trip, both in terms of the sightseeing and the beer. Another thing Latvia is famous for, but also in terms of reception, we don't really have this kind of a mean football culture here.
Yeah, true. I think RFS did very well to sort of make friends with Hearts. I believe they're like football besties. They're very happy, and of course, on the field there was a battle, and during the game, of course, the fans were no friends, but after, in Old Riga, they just spoke to each other. I even think that their owner was also in the streets of Old Riga, just chatting away with fans. And yeah, it was a very, very nice thing to see that RFS also sort of grow in such a way that they can develop a good relationship with fans from other teams. I even now see whenever they're putting up like tweets, our next game is against them, and then some Hearts fan is just replying with good luck. So yeah, that's
nice.
Really beautiful thing to see.
I heard an interesting thing that Hearts use Latvian flag emoji to designate their team because it's the same colors, so maroon and white.
That is true.
And the RFS flag is basically a Scottish flag. So I remember seeing when Hearts fans started flying into Riga, they were like, "Oh, making these jokes like how nice of locals to put up our team flag all over the place."
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, a good coincidence. Yeah. Anyway, they managed to do very well. Well, not very well, but they did manage to get some draws.
Picked up 2 points
against Fiorentina and Başakşehir, which is
it's impressive.
Quite an achievement. Yeah. Even though the Hearts were the beatable team,
right?
They never managed to beat them. But yeah, first game away at Fiorentina,
1-1.
To get a 1-1.
Yeah, not a goalless draw either.
And through the group stages, I believe the goalkeeper Pavel Steinbors was also quite a figure, making some unbelievable saves that got into highlight reels from week in, week out. So
yeah, pretty much every week.
There's definitely a lot of good emotions from their group stage journey, and also managed to sort of put some players in the spotlight. They also have some not very young, but quite young players with a very promising future, and definitely something to sell, something to look at, something to be excited about.
Yeah. I think we're thinking Brazilian Emerson, certainly one of those.
Yep. The defender Žiga Lipuščak.
He's excellent.
Very tall, very huge presence in the defense.
Very smart as well. Reads the game amazingly.
Yeah, exactly. Surprised they haven't sold them actually this transfer window, but even better for RFS to keep them and try and win the title back.
I mean, RFS, at least before this amazing selling record that Valmiera just displayed, so the previous year RFS did really good, and they broke local transfer records by selling Darko Lemajic to Ghent Football Club for just short of €1 million.
And they also sold Chinonso Ofor, also was a player who they sold to Chicago Fire, I believe, in MLS.
And I mean, it's a winter transfer window as well now, because Latvian League is played over summer.
Yeah, that's also a good point to be fair that we should mention.
Yeah,
it's a summer league played from March until November.
Yeah. So that's I suppose another benefit to following it once the big leagues split. Then there's still some exciting football to enjoy.
Yeah, and lastly, I want to quickly add that of course all of these sort of footballing things are beautiful about Virsliga. The teams we have, the players we have, but what's also really, I think, made it interesting, at least for me in the recent years, is that there's always some sort of backstory, some sort of things cooking up in the internal kitchen of Virsliga. Not always, but there have been some better experiences, worse experiences with some not so, let's say, nice teams that and the way that how they have earned their place in this league, and the players they bring in, coaches they bring in. Sometimes there have been some controversies with match fixing, etc. But that's the bad part, which we don't really want to see happening again. But there's been some also interesting things about players sort of turning against coaches. The one that we have also already mentioned, Tamas Perti, there was an interesting stint at Valmiera. When the players were releasing some sort of letters against the coach. And there's also a lot of very funny, interesting quotes that the players managed to bring out. And there's always just something happening, some sort of backstory that creates a narrative. There's a lot of sort of derbies, Riga derbies, the lower ranking team derbies, sort of Met, Daugavpils was always a big one. Met have never managed to beat them. And that's another thing. There's always some narratives, and if you follow it, you will definitely see them and see what I mean. There's always just something in the background also interesting going on, that makes it very interesting. And it's not always not always necessarily good things that are going on, but still they are happening. And I think that's also what makes Latvian football interesting, unique, and also in a way you can see the progress with your own eyes.
I agree. There's romance to it that is missing from the top leagues, where there's so much commerce and it's so polished, and so much of it is about money. Obviously, yeah, the negative things you mentioned, that's inherent to football. Football is not, a clean game as such, and anyone following, anyone who doesn't live under a rock and follows football will be aware of things that sometimes happen with respect to money, and so the important part is that we can see clear progress, and these things are being rooted out and things are developing. But on top of that, yeah, there's these stories that you say. For example, this year, one of such stories that continues is that one of the teams, Daugavpils, which represents a far eastern city, the city doesn't want to provide them with a suitable stadium, so they're homeless for the time being. They might end up playing in a city an hour away that does love football, and while it's annoying for the fans, it does give this other dimension that you mentioned.
Exactly, yeah. Just how many, I don't know, teams in in the world can say that they're literally homeless without a place, without the home stadium? Yeah, because they're not friends with the city they're in. It probably sounds ridiculous, but that's the idiosyncrasies that the Latvian football can have, and nothing to do about it. Just see, watch, enjoy, and yeah, they're gonna find a place where to play, obviously, but yeah, just always something going on besides the football itself, which is so interesting to follow.
Hey, I think they should just rename themselves into FK Latgale, or after the region, and just play out of where they're welcome. Because
that's a good point. Yeah, at this point,
that's my solution to this whole thing. But no one's asking me, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hey, who do you think? What's your top 3 for the upcoming season, and top 3 and bottom 3?
So yeah, personally, well, it's always very tricky to predict Latvian football. First of all, because the recent years, well, not only recent years, the past 5-6 years, it's hard to disregard Riga FC and the budget they have. We should mention that's confidently the richest
big
team.
Spender, yeah.
Yeah, they bring in a lot of players with good CVs, such as Jojic, central midfielder who has played for Dortmund Borussia under Jurgen Klopp. Quite a huge name.
And Serbian national team, I think, as well.
Yeah, and only 2 friendlies, but still, that's an achievement. That's a huge national team. So yeah, it's hard to disregard them, but then the recent years have proved Valmir can come up with something, RFS as well. And the second thing which makes this league hard to predict is that I did tweet a prediction just 2 days ago. And since then, Valmir have announced, I think, like 3-4 new players, which seem quite promising as well. So yeah, it's just always hard to predict because they leave all the transfers until the very last days. But yeah, my top 3 is I did go for Riga FC to win the league, get the number 1 spot, because I think the difference is gonna be the coach from different years. The players I don't think it really matters who they bring in, who goes out. They're always relatively big names. But this year, I think the coach is really gonna do all the right things they have to regain their dominance in Latvian football. Then I went for Valmier to be second, because I also believe in their coach, Jurgis Counts, and the fact that he can sort of build a good team with the players, mostly young players that Valmier has. And yeah, I just think they always have something about them. I think Valmier always has something about their I don't know, the internal factor of the team, the players, their relationships, the people around the team. They just always seem like they know what they're doing, and this sort of speaks to me. And then number 3 spot, went for RFS, who also have managed to keep most of their players, good players, brought some people back, I should say. Very experienced players, good players, Latvian players who play for the national team. And quite an experienced team, one of the older teams. But just for some reason, I think maybe this season I don't know, maybe the Viktor Smaras era has been a bit long, and I don't know. It seems for me that they might have some struggles finding the right motivation to get into number 1 or 2 spots.
What about the bottom 3?
And bottom 3, again, very hard because that's just Latvian football. There's really hard to predict, but maybe quite a controversial one for me. I went for number 8, Tukums, who managed to be winners of the bottom 5 last year and came 6th. Then I went for the newcomers, Jelgava, to finish in the 9th place, and I went for Meta to finish last, which is, I think, the controversial one. Because they're they're known for always coming second to last and playing these playoffs with the second team from the first league and always managing to win and stay in the highest league. And even though their squad is not looking too bad, I somehow I don't back Meta. But I think that's maybe sort of a biased view from my side because I've played and a lot of people. Well, not people, but always have something to say about Meta. But then again, say what you want, but there are some interesting characters around the team, but how the club is built is just amazing. The youth system that they have, the players they bring out, it's amazing. So in that regard, controversial for me, but just had to, shoot a shot and do one controversial prediction, and that's Meta for me. Because I think Jelgava might edge them. I think that's going to be the big battle. Jelgava Meta, young teams. And last year, Jelgava beat Meta in the cup tie. So just back them to sort of gain these points over Meta. And Meta to finish last. So what about your predictions?
All right. Well, I don't have as much insight. And I do have a bias, and I'm an RFS supporter, so I'm going to put them first. I think I think they want Champions League. The way they fell out of Champions League last year was just silly. On penalty shootout to Hayeka from Helsinki, really should have progressed.
My blood still boils thinking about that. The goal they conceded when the free kick went under the wall. I just thought, come on, you're professional players. How can you let something like that go in? I think it's everyone knows. Just stand on your toes to make yourself higher, but don't jump. I don't know, but yeah.
And wasn't there a missed penalty as well from Panic?
Panic, right? Over the bar. But that's penalties. That happens.
And then, but actually, the goal they conceded in Helsinki, which was 1-0, I think, right? That was completely Panic's fault. He just gave the ball away to an attacker. But anyway, so with that pass, I think RFS is going to go for first, and I'm gonna. I don't necessarily think they will, but that will be my sort of a wishful thinking, sort of a vote of confidence. Second, I think will be Valmiera. They let go a lot of the squad, and I think a lot of what drove them last year was this whole thing that for 4 years they were number 4, number 3, number 2, and no one really kind of seriously considered them as contenders for title. So I think they had this fire underneath them to prove everyone wrong, and now with many people from who were key to that success gone, I don't necessarily believe that they have what it takes, but they're still a high quality squad. Putting Riga third was a close one, and that's less to do with the squad and the coach, as we mentioned. We both will follow Tomislav Stipic. He's an excellent coach, and more to do with how clubs run. I haven't been following Latvian football for that long because of what I explained in the beginning, but in the years that I have been, they haven't had a coach finish the season with the team.
That's a ridiculous stat, by the way. That's
yeah.
That's
and
true.
It's the same story. It's the same story every year thus far, that they spend millions on the transfer market. They get these exciting names and both players and coaches, like with Fink last year, and then it just doesn't work. It falls through. The wheels are spinning. They don't get traction somehow. There's something missing. So I think that's going to be the top three. In terms of bottom three, I think Jelgava is going to be last. It's exciting that they've got promoted, but they haven't really altered their squad all that much, and I think the first league guys will struggle in Virsliga. Number 9, I think, will be Meta, as per usual. And Meta actually now is the oldest team in the Virsliga. The oldest in the sense that played the longest. Continuously. And I think number 8 is going to be Tukums. Also lost a lot of their squad, but last year it started very poorly and then did some very amazing things. So the coach stayed. Some of the players they're getting are interesting, mainly on loan.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these bottom teams have a lot of loanies from the big teams that sort of bring their level up. I agree, but I see that top and bottom 3 we have the same teams, just different orders. Especially the top 3, which I don't know. I think Riga FC third is a controversial one, definitely, but I can see that happening if they start poorly and they fire the coach, which they been known for doing. So and the point you made about how the club is ran, I do have to agree that the 3 years that they won the championship consecutively, I think that was just because they had the budget and the means. But in the meantime, other clubs like Valmiera, RFS really got to know how they should be running the club, and that's, I think, what made the RFS champions 2 years ago. But maybe it seems that Riga is starting to go in the right direction. But it just seems a bit like they have the money, but not always know what to do with it. And that's also a good story about how these 2 clubs, RFS and Riga, ran. More budget for Riga FC, but RFS is just, I think a lot of players that have been there have commented that they are very keen on how the club is ran. They're sort of a family. And
another familiar name to our listeners may be former Latvian legend Maris Verpakovskis, who is the general manager at RFS. That's a big thing that gives me faith in that particular organization.
That's a good point. And then I can agree with your points about your predictions, which do make sense. But we have some disagreements on it, and the bottom 3, same thing, just switched Meta and Jelgava around, and perhaps Jelgava will struggle. But I don't know. I don't know why. I just want to back them, but I have to admit there's not a lot of really deep football analysis put into it. It's just my gut feeling, or maybe not really feeling, but I don't know.
I want to back them too, because I'm so happy that they got promoted.
Yeah.
And if to be perfectly honest with you, I'd rather see a Supernova in number 10, but they signed
Why
some. Just something about them. I don't know. Maybe it's the name. It's silly. Silly name, silly logo. Gives the Virsliga a bad name. Just there's a few things that I don't necessarily want to mention, but I don't think they will. I think they finished 10th last year and they got relegated, but because of another club having to withdraw, they ended up being invited back in. Well, not invited. Such are the rules. And it seems that they really, really learned their lesson. They signed experienced players. They appear to be very keen on not getting relegated automatically this year.
Exactly. Yeah, they signed some. They have a lot of also have loan players from Valmiera. 3 of them who I think are gonna make some difference. But the big names is the 2 experienced players that they signed. They have kept the Vishniakovs, which was also a big figure last season. But yeah, they signed Oleg Slajzans, known as a maestro in Latvian football.
Excellent long shot.
Excellent long shot. Excellent. He's good in possession, good with the ball, good passes. But yeah, the bigger name I think that they announced just today is Denis Rakels, who is also quite an experienced player.
Former RFS striker. Yeah, I think last year he didn't play much, but he got an absurd ratio of goals to minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, also been at the Riga FC, currently 30 years old, which for Virsliga is quite old to be fair. But yeah, we should say that he's a player that's been around for some time. He had a very successful season in Poland, which piqued interest from other clubs, and he even has played for Reading FC in the Championship in England, which is a very high level. And considering that, it's quite interesting to see how your career can go. That you've been playing in Championship and now you're playing for the bottom 5 teams in the Virsliga. Quite a journey. Maybe not in the most positive note, but Supernova definitely delighted with the transfer, and just makes again the league more unpredictable because Supernova seem to be cooking something up.
Yeah, definitely gonna be an uncomfortable team, I think, for both top 5 and bottom 5. So let's maybe talk a little bit about the podcast. It's we to be perfectly honest with everyone, we weren't really planning on doing a season preview, mainly because season starts tomorrow. And this was sort of a last minute initiative, but we ended up a little bit anyway, which I'm happy with. But let's say a bit about the podcast. So the idea behind this is that this is going to be a conversational podcast where we are gonna talk between the 2 of us. Most of the time we are gonna, hopefully we plan to, let's put it that way. We plan to also include guests a little bit down the line once this thing starts rolling properly. Players, coaches, sports journalists from Latvia, so that we can also hear from them. The point of the podcast is to give an overview of each round. So we're going to record these things after each round, where we will look back as well as look forward on the next round, which means that episodes will come out on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, generally speaking. So the next one is going to be next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. You can follow us on Twitter at lvfootball_show. And obviously you should play the Football Manager game, where you can also find Virsliga and try things out for yourself. You know, maybe you can win Champions League with Jelgava. Who knows? Anything's possible. If you're new to Virsliga, perhaps you're wondering where can you follow it, and maybe your cable provider doesn't show, in which case you're in luck. So if you can hook up yourself a VPN to Latvia, you can watch everything for free on the Virsliga website or on sportatcenters.com, which is kind of a Latvian ESPN. If you don't want to deal with that, you can download the 11 Sports app, which has a deal with the Virsliga, and you can just watch it from abroad for free from your phone or whatever.
Yeah, just definitely follow Virsliga Twitter page, Instagram, everything like that. There's a lot of good Twitter accounts also that you can follow about Latvian football. Also, a couple in English as well. And yeah, just get to know Latvian football. We
Get
can promise
excited.
yeah, the season's about to start. We can promise it's going to be very interesting. The Latvian football scene is very interesting, as we've mentioned in this podcast for many reasons. And
It's interesting, and it's more interesting with every coming year. That's the fascinating thing. Last year I thought like, wow, this is going to be a super interesting season. And it was, but it's so much more interesting this year. And the trend is there. Next year it's going to be even more interesting. So
exactly, yeah, because now we've had the team qualify for the European group stages, and as the teams are getting better, we sort of feel like, well, we should get more teams in there and then just get there more comfortably, easier, maybe even reach the Europa League again. Yeah, just a lot of things to look forward to, a lot of players to be excited about. Also, in the start, we mentioned Ramos Kroos, who plays in Syria, now in Italy, and it's just can't wait to see him get on the pitch and maybe earn his first start.
oh,
Sort
he
of the
did
most.
that. He got on the
Yeah,
pitch
I
with
mean,
Napoli.
starting 11. I mean, first start in starting 11, and yeah, definitely the most exciting Latvian player to follow currently. Then we also have the Latvian national team have their first qualifying matches in in a month or so.
Which we will be covering as well. We'll be having special episodes where we cover the national team,
Yeah,
which
and
just recently got promoted in the Nations League out of the basement
yes, exactly.
into Division C.
Yeah, quite an achievement for us.
Hey, I was there. It was pretty epic.
Yeah, that's definitely a good achievement. So because also the Latvian national team has been in, let's say, slumps for a couple of years, and only recently we started to sort of pick up our game and starting to show better football. So that's also something to be excited about.
As well, we should, as we played in Euro 2004 in the group stages.
Yeah, exactly. Well, some countries you can compare to are Estonia, Lithuania, other Baltic states, and they've never done that. So that's something we can be proud of and should be definitely looking forward to and aiming for in the upcoming years. So let's see if we can manage that. Also, when we cover the Latvian national team, you'll get to hear about the players not only playing in Virsliga, but the Latvians abroad, which also might be of interest to the listeners, probably. We also have some interesting players abroad.
Yeah, there's some in Poland, and there's, if you're following the Dutch league, yeah, Robert Uldrich plays for struggling Kambur.
Yeah, exactly. While Gudkowskis, who plays in Poland, are playing for a very thriving Rakov, who are seem to be on the road to getting their first championship title, and he's their main striker, scoring some goals, some crucial goals. Also nice to see. And yeah, when all of these players abroad and in Virsliga get together for the Latvian national team, also something to look forward to. And when we cover the national team, you'll hear also a lot of not necessarily controversies, but there's also definitely some interesting topics to talk about in terms of the Latvian coach, the players he chooses to bring to the national team, or more
Maybe
so
more
who he doesn't.
importantly, not
Who he
bring,
doesn't.
right?
Exactly. So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff to be excited about.
So follow the podcast, share with your friends and other football fans. Check Virsliga out and Football Manager. And we will see you in our first round overview episode next time.
Thank you for listening.